My favorite questions to ask anyone when I'm trying to understand their career are, how did they end up where they are, and what does a typical day look like for them? So that's exactly what I'm going to share in this video. What a typical day looks like for me as a work from home marketing girly in the tech industry, and I'll also share how I ended up in this career in the first place. If you're new here, I'm Camilla, and on this channel, I share my career and creator journeys as I try to balance the two with my personal life and interests, and I promise to share anything helpful that I learn along the way. So I work in marketing, and specifically, I'm a brand strategist at a medical technology company. If you don't know what a brand strategist is, that's fine, we'll get to it in a second. Just to explain my work setup a little bit, I work remotely from New Jersey, but my team is based on the West Coast, so a lot of my meetings end up being West Coast hours, which means one of the best perks about my job is the slow mornings. Since most of my meetings don't start until West Coast morning, I usually don't have anything on my calendar until noon, so I like to use the extra time in the mornings to get ahead or catch up on work that requires deep focus, get a workout in, and get a good breakfast in. So according to Scott Galloway, brand is the idea of a company that exists in the hearts and minds of consumers. And brand strategy is the practice of trying to influence that idea that exists in their minds and hearts. So I would say that there are 5 key activities that actually go into brand strategy, or what brand strategists do, because I know that definition is pretty fluffy. So the first is product positioning or messaging, and that's basically helping product teams figure out like what they want to position their product as. A great example is like Olipop. I love Olipop's positioning because they could have positioned themselves as like a soda alternative or a better alternative to kombucha, but instead they position themselves as the soda of the future, meaning they're competing with Coca-Cola and Pepsi, not just like soda alternatives, which is really cool. And once you decide your positioning, messaging is how you communicate that positioning to your customers. Another key activity for brand strategy is content strategy. So once you decide what your positioning is and what your messaging is, content strategy deals with how you're actually going to use that messaging and like content marketing or promotional messages and stuff. And this really goes into like what you want to say, how you want to say it, and the channels that you want to distribute the messages on. So this is deciding whether you're going to communicate something through a video, long form video, short form video, an article, a blog post, or a combination of all of them, which usually content strategy is a combination of multiple mediums. Something else that I did not know fell under brand strategy is actually product naming. That's pretty straightforward. It's like naming products. And the reason that this falls under brand strategy is because as a company, you want your products to all seem like they come from the same company through the name. Think of like Apple products, like, you know, iPhone, iPad, Apple Pencil, like they obviously all come from the same company, versus brands that you might have interacted with where it's like, whoa, like who came up with this name, or like how does it match the other ones? The fourth key activity I'd say that comes in brand strategy, and actually usually this is probably the most important, is brand identity. So what is like the core of your brand, and how do you express that through different brand assets such as your color palette, your typefaces, iconography, and all that stuff? I work like in a corporate setting, so all of this stuff has been decided before, and usually if you're at a company after it's already been established, there's already a set brand identity. But because companies continue to like evolve and expand, your brand identity should always be like thought of critically and maybe evolved and stuff. So that comes into question sometimes. And the other half of that is brand management, which is basically like people in the company come to you and say, can we use this color here? Or like, is this logo placement correct? And you say yes or no. I honestly love brand strategy because I think it's such an interesting space in like the marketing communication field. And I like it because I get to be really strategic and really creative. And while a lot of people in a big company have to focus on one product or one region, as a brand strategist, you get to have a really broad scope because you're thinking about the company's perception overall, which obviously ties in multiple different products and multiple different regions in the world. And I love that my job is to be able to connect the dots between all of those different parts of a company. I actually have a meeting right now, so I'm just gonna eat this watermelon as quickly as I can, and then we'll come back and talk about how I'm actually able to do that kind of work and what goes into it. Okay, so I told you guys that brand strategists help with positioning, messaging, content strategy, brand identity, product naming, and brand management. But how do we actually do those things? We definitely don't do it alone because no one could hold enough information in their heads about different products, about the whole company, to be able to do those things effectively on their own. A lot of this requires me pulling information and different perspectives from different people across the company who have different areas of expertise, which is why this is one of those roles where you tend to have a bunch of meetings all the time. Basically, I say, okay, in order to give a brand perspective on this product positioning, I need to know these 5 things. And in order to understand these 5 things, I have to talk to these 5 people. So then I set up meetings, go talk to those people, synthesize all of the things I heard to get an aligned perspective of the issue. And then I present that back to the stakeholders or the people who commissioned the project or are most involved in the project. And with that synthesized perspective, I give a recommendation for how to move forward. And if those stakeholders are aligned with my recommendation, then I help put together a criteria or a brief for whatever the creative solution is for the messaging or the content strategy or the brand identity issue or whatever. But not all meetings are the same. So after this meeting that I'll have, I'll break down the different types of meetings that I tend to have in a day or a week. So I'm actually on vacation right now in the Bahamas with my mom, and I recorded this video like a week ago, and I was editing the video today and I'm like, wait, why is half of the footage gone? I have no idea where the other half of the footage is. I ate lunch with y'all, took y'all to some meetings I had, explained all the rest about my job, and the footage is gone. I'm re-recording the parts of the video that I can't find. But anyways, I was saying that I have a lot of meetings in a day, but they're not all the same type of meeting. I feel like on social media, when you see people working from home, a lot of times they depict meetings as they can have their camera off all the time, they don't have to say much. And that's not the case for me. I find that I have 3 different kinds of meetings. So the first kind of meeting is a status update or a check-in. And these can be with a really large team, with a smaller team, or one-on-one check-ins. And they can either just be, catching up with your manager or a coworker. They can be for a specific project, or they can be for a specific department that you work in. These are the ones I feel like when people make memes and stuff on social media, they're talking about these check-in type meetings, where sometimes it is a really large group and there's one person talking to everyone else or a couple of people talking to everyone else, and those you can kind of listen in. Basically, it's someone is updating you. But on the smaller team updates, if there's 10 people or less, usually you're also giving an update and engaging with the other people and stuff. And definitely in one-on-one check-ins, you're definitely talking the whole time and should be engaged with the other person you're talking to. And for project updates, usually these are things that you're actually working on and getting status updates, unless it's a really integrated project where there's a bunch of different people, 20 different people doing different work streams but working towards the same ultimate goal. Then that might be a little bit you have minimal participation in those kinds of meetings. The next kind of meeting is a brainstorm or work session, and these are when you're actually working with someone else in real time, on Zoom or something, in order to move a project forward or complete something that you have to do for the project. I would say that in a week, about 50% of my meetings are status update meetings, whether it's a weekly meeting that we have for a specific project that we're working on to make sure it's moving forward at the rate we want it to, or team meetings or one-on-ones with people. I would say 30 to 40% of my meetings in a week are these work sessions where it's maybe I'm on a naming project and we're brainstorming different creative territories for the names together. Or maybe I'm working on a messaging project and we're exploring together different ways that we can think through the messaging and stuff. And those are work sessions where like you really are engaged the whole time. I personally love work sessions because I like co-working or working with other people. I feel like my brain works better in like a duo or with other people. So usually these are like the most productive meetings I find. And then the last kind of meetings are like presentation meetings. Either you're presenting work that you did on a project or presenting a project proposal maybe to get like commissioned. And these, like, you have to not only be engaged, but try to engage everyone else in the meeting for the whole time. And at my level, I'm still like kind of junior in my role. So I would say like 10 to 20% of my meetings are actually me presenting work that I've done to a group of people or stakeholders or leadership or whatever. And these meetings like take a lot of prep and you have to be like engaged and engaging the whole time. So that's the different kind of meetings that I usually have and the breakdown for my specific role. Then I wanted to talk about how the heck I got in this job in the first place for anyone that's like interested in something similar or even working in like the tech industry but in a non-technical role. First, let's talk about my educational background. So I went to Boston University and I studied linguistics there, and I actually got a master's in linguistics. I think I explained that in some video over here. And I also have a master's in digital marketing now. When I started my master's in digital marketing program, I was looking for internships in marketing. I optimized my LinkedIn and other job websites like my Handshake profile. And actually the company that I work at, one of their recruiters reached out to me on Handshake for a grad internship that they had in brand strategy. So if you're a grad student or even just a recent college grad and you're looking for jobs, don't sleep on Handshake because they definitely reach out on there. And I interviewed and ended up getting that intern position, which eventually turned into a full-time position. And it didn't just turn into a full-time position, like I basically asked if I could come on full-time. And then with the right people's like approval and stuff, it was able to happen eventually. And now I've had this role as an associate brand strategist for the past 2 years. Overall, I feel like my job fits my personality and values really well and just matches with how my brain works. I love my job, but it's not perfect. There definitely are some cons. For example, even with the time zone thing, like even though it means I don't really have meetings in the morning, sometimes it means that I have meetings later in the day because the time zone works that way. I also do wish that I was able to go into an office sometimes. I feel like it would be good for just like my social life in my 20s and would help me develop those in-person, in-office kind of skills. But obviously those are like pretty small cons, and I feel very blessed to have my job. Anyways, that's all I wanted to share in this video. I'm really sorry that I lost the footage. I just have no idea what happened. But I hope you still enjoyed and got a bit of insight into marketing, brand strategy, the tech world, work from home world, all that stuff. Let me know down below if you have any other questions, and I would definitely make like a work from home day in the life video like this in the future, answering those other questions. Yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. And in the meantime, don't forget to spend time creating. Bye.